crumbs left after one of the parties in the Tsar's salon,"
said Papa. The Tsar, who enjoyed the ballet as much as any other citizen of St. Petersburg, often held parties in a special room behind the royal box. There were cakes and pastries. Papa and the other custodians always had to clean up afterward. "But they are clever mice," Irina insisted.
"No doubt about that. They've outwitted every mousetrap I've ever set for them,"
said Papa, who as chief custodian was expected to get rid of the mice. Not that he had ever succeeded in catching a single one. Irina said, "If they're clever, they might like the ballet. Do you know what I think, Papa? I think the mice might like to dance."
"Well, I suppose they might."
Her father was humoring her. He didn't really believe that the mice could dance, but Irina had her own secret reason for believing that they could. She said, "I mean it, Papa. They might listen to the orchestra and dance somewhere out of sight. Under the stage, maybe." He chuckled.
"They might have their own ballet company, eh?"
"Why not?" For the secret reason mentioned before, Irina had lately been thinking quite a bit about the Mariinsky mice. Papa said,
"I expect the mice will like the new ballet the theater is putting on."
Irina knew which ballet he meant. It was one that no one had ever seen before. It was called the Nutcracker, and it would be shown at Christmas time. That was months away, but Irina's mother and the other seamstresses were already busy sewing the costumes. Dresses for a party in the first act, dresses for dancing snowflakes, and dresses of golden cloth for the waltz of the flowers in the second act. Papa had read aloud to Irina the story that had inspired the new ballet, all about a nutcracker who was really a prince and a vengeful mouse king leading an army of mice. Irina had enjoyed the story, but recalling it now, she frowned. The mice in it had been such mean-tempered, nasty creatures. "Oh, but Papa, I don't think the Mariinsky mice will like the new ballet."
"What's that? Why not?"
At that moment, Irina felt as if she were a mouse. She felt tiny and powerless and indignant about the unfair opinion people had of her. She felt angry with her father for setting all the mousetraps at the theater, even if it was his job to do so. "Really, Papa," she said, not hiding her disapproval. "If you're a mouse, the Nutcracker is not a very good story at all." Chapter 2. Lard and Stale Bread. Snap! The sharp-toothed jaws of the mousetrap clamped shut. Esmeralda felt her tail twitch and her heart thump. She said, "I will never get used to this."
"Never mind,"
said her twin brother, Gringoire.
"These new traps are no more a danger to us than the old ones, now that we know how to disarm them."
The two mice stood at a safe distance from the mousetrap at the top of the stairs that led to the attic of the Mariinsky Theater. It was Gringoire who had figured out how to toss a kopeck into the trap. The coin jarred the mechanism, setting it off so the mice could safely retrieve the bait. There were mousetraps like this one all over the theater, and all the Mariinsky mice knew how to use Gringoire's trick.
"We're lucky we got here before anybody else,"
said Gringoire. There were quite a few mice who made their home in the attic, but the siblings had risen early in the hope of finding something for breakfast. Esmeralda climbed over the tightly shut jaws, shuddering at the touch of the cold metal. She picked up the kopeck and handed it to her brother. Then she scraped up the morsel of lard from the metal tongue in the center of the trap. The morsel was smaller than a hazelnut, hardly enough for one mouse, let alone two. Or three. Their cousin usually joined them for meals. "Maybe Conrad will have brought something back from Scrounge Patrol last night," said Esmeralda as they made their way across the attic floor to her brother's home. The Scrounge Patrols were a necessity of life at the Mariinsky. The mousetraps had never provided enough to eat, so from time to time, teams of volunteers would venture outside for additional provisions, which were then turned over to a special committee of mice who stockpiled the food at several locations within the walls of the theater. The food could then be parceled out to families, but patrol members, who risked dogs, cats, rats, and other dangers in the alleys, streets, and squares of St. Petersburg, were usually rewarded with extra provisions for their efforts. Esmeralda had recently passed the birthday that marked her as an adult, which meant that she would soon go out on Scrounge Patrol. Conrad was waiting for them as they rounded the corner of a wooden crate.
"Lard again, I see,"
he commented.
"Lucky for us, I managed to wrest this fresh bread away from a gang of..."